2613. Be advised, data rates may apply. Attendees must desire to speak by raising a hand. It's star 9 on phone, and this should only happen during the appropriate point for public comment. When called on, you can unmute your connected device by star 6 if phone. Attendees must state their name before commenting. All right. At this point, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Adoption of the agenda. Anything new
For me.
down there? Gary, Christie?
No, we're all set.
Oh.
Thank you.
Public comment? Nothing? Select board announcements?
No.
Nope.
Well, except the one thing I want to say is the television station has given up the bottle shed. And if anybody is, if you want to continue to contribute, you can take them to Cousins, and they'll credit us Telmets for the TV stations. That's it.
Good for you.
Yeah, I know. It was killing me.
Yeah. Yeah. We did that a long time. All right. Town Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do believe that Mary Ann Naif, I don't know if she can hear me, did you have an announcement you wanted to make? I think she missed the public comment period. She was busy.
Sorry, I couldn't get on here quick enough. Good evening. I'm Mary Ann Ney from the Conservation Commission, and I wanted to just take a little bit of time tonight to let the residents of town know that we're having another water presentation in 2 weeks on the 30th of October. For those at home, I will put this out here, and perhaps they'll be able to see it. But this is going to be talking about how to harvest water and save water in town to make sure that we have enough drinking water. We had a previous program that drew a lot of people about a month ago, and we talked about our fractured rock aquifer. So this program is going to go to the next step and start talking with residents on how we can learn to live with the water we have in our aquifer. It's going to be the 30th of October, 6 p.m. at the community school, and hope you'll see you there. You look puzzled.
I always look puzzled. Wonder why? All right.
Oh, I just want to remind people of the November 5th voting date. Many people have already requested absentee ballots, and the clerk informed me that the town has already issued over 1,200 absentee ballots. About half of them have been returned. So people are voting. We want to remind people that there are municipal referendum items on the municipal ballot, and if they want to find out more information about those key articles and, some background information, it's on our website. We have a vote button on the home page. You can click on it. You can see the sample state ballot, which includes the presidential race. You can see a sample municipal ballot. You can get information on the town articles on our website. So again, we're just encouraging people to become informed, and many people are already submitting their votes and casting their votes. So if you don't vote absentee, and you can request an absentee ballot up until October 31st, after that you have to have a special circumstance to vote absentee. Otherwise, you would go to Harpswell Community School on Tuesday, November 5th. The polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on that date. And I will say the clerk's office has been working incredibly hard. And we have additional staff members who are stepping up and supporting the work of the town clerk's office, so we really appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda which is the minutes and the authorization of the warrants with the addition of $7,084.21, which Terry asked us to add.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Tax abatement requests.
Good evening. I'm Debbie Turner, the assessor's agent. I've given you 3 abatement applications, finding of facts. Do you have any questions on those 3? Basically, I was recommending 2 and denying 1.
I move we approve the, I'll use the account number, N060PP and G1240R. Is that okay? Is that
Yep.
good? All right.
And the amount of totaling of the 2 would be a total of $298.92.
92 cents in tax, yeah.
Second.
Thank you.
Any discussion? No? All in favor?
All right, thank you.
There we go. All right, revised Clark Cove plan.
Mr. Chairman, Hope Hilton, who's a co-chair of the Town Lands Committee, is here tonight. The town submitted a plan to the state. We received some feedback from the state about revisions that the town should consider. That went back to the Town Lands Committee, and I believe they took it up in August. And Hope Hilton, again, is prepared to discuss that with you tonight.
I'm Hope Hilton. I'm one of the members of the Town Lands Committee, and this is a site that we have looked at, and with the assistance of various committee members and other people in town and other people who worked in conservation areas. Our committee put together this draft for the select board to consider. It's not cast in stone. It's the beginning. It's something for you to use and work with to develop further as you see fit. And it's the kind of outline covering issues that the state of Maine would look at in reviewing this as part of, they would then comment upon it and make suggestions of where they see it could be implemented or strengthened or revised. And it would be used along with a management plan ultimately and a state management plan which they would enter into with the town, where the state would continue to own the land that was acquired with public funds for public conservation purposes. And the state would enter into that agreement with the town of Harpswell. And whether it's this outline or however it ends up being refined based upon the recommendations and comments from the state of Maine and from members of the public. It's fairly simple that way.
Yep.
I think many of the things that you see in this are the kind of things that the state would be putting into its proposed plan with the town. And all these things, land is always a moving landscape, and as habitat changes, as weather conditions change, you would see, just as on other town sites, that the town committees in charge of that, or the land trust, if it's land trust land, will review and alter their plans from time to time based upon the conditions on the sites. So it's not cast in stone.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hope. As the liaison to the Town Lands Committee, I would also like to comment that it appears we had a first plan go to the state with feedback, and my reading of this is that feedback has been taken into account in this plan, so it is refined from the original.
That's correct.
I don't know if there's any more discussion from us, but I would like to make a recommendation when we've had the discussion.
You guys know how I feel. I don't live there. I own property near it, but I would vote against this if it was on Bailey's Island or Cundy's Harbor. It's just not good use for this land. It talks about requiring leashes for dogs. We know that doesn't work. Mitchell Field tells us that. And it's ground nesting birds are prey to dogs. So there are several other things in here, signs and parking lot, that's just, and I've said it before, a lot of people walk on that road. They walk their dogs. It's a narrow road. Bringing extra traffic there is just not a good idea. I would vote against this no matter what.
I think, the way this is laid out, the two of us think that it should go to a town vote. And, in March, and between now and then, there'd be public hearings on it, and, for the pros and cons. It would give anybody who's against it plenty of opportunities to present their case. And ultimately, like we do in town, let the voters decide, instead of three of us.
Let me just make some other remarks. I absolutely agree. I think it is something that should go to the town and be determined by the people of the town as to whether we go forward or not. And that I think we have time, and it would be helpful if we accept this as the report from the Town Lands Committee, as we did the first time, send it back to the state, and move the process forward. We have made a commitment to do some further, we've made a further request from the state to do some additional surveys,
Yeah.
if they can do that, and in terms of the wildlife that is associated with this property. But just to keep the process moving so that we can bring something substantial, not hypothetical, to the town meeting in March. So that's my recommendation. We accept this and we move the process forward.
Can we have some public feedback on this?
Sure.
Before we vote?
Yep.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Patty Lochran, resident of Allen Point Road. We wanted to show you a video tonight. However, we don't think the technology is going to work. We have passed it along to the town, and we would ask that the select board members please view that video. It is a News Center Maine report that aired on August 26th of this year. It talked about the impact of storm damage on hiking trails and the nonprofit Portland Trails organization and the cost. So what I would like to do today is just a brief statement around the costs associated with putting new trails in place. So building and maintaining a trail is not free. Building any new trail requires the commitment of maintaining it, as taxpayers of Maine and of Harpswell will be the ones paying for it. Regardless of whether or not the state offsets some of the initial costs, over time, the residents of Harpswell will pay the bill. Climate change and extreme weather are having a major impact on our environment and terrain, eroding shorelines and damaging trails, requiring more frequent and more costly repairs. As seen in the News Center Maine report, the Penobscot Trail Foundation needs $100,000 just to stay even. The Clark Cove shoreline, like much of the shoreline in town, continues to be ravaged by storms. Building a trail here is environmentally and physically irresponsible, especially as we know the costs will soar and climate change will continue to erode the land, the cliff face, and the trails. Let me say this. Number one, I support and enjoy many of the many wonderful trails and water access points that we have here in Harpswell and all over Maine. Two, Harpswell has over 15 trails currently available for all to enjoy. There is no lack of trail or water access that requires the town to invest further tax dollars into new trails. Three, regardless of how carefully this proposed trail is built, there will be a negative impact to the environment, to the natural bird and wildlife habitat, to the shoreline, and to the residents of Allen Point Road, Morshire Road, and Green Meadows Road. This project is about state-owned land, not town land. Why are we spending tax dollars and resources on something the town will never own? And last, since this project was proposed, you have heard opposition not only from the residents of this neighborhood, Allen Point Road, but from over 150 residents and taxpayers of the town of Harpswell that have asked you to stop this project. We have raised environmental issues, trespassing issues, financial issues, and safety issues. We urge you to abandon this project and to focus on more important town business. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the rest of you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jim Lochran. I also reside on Allen Point Road. I'm going to begin by showing a few slides. These were actually taken by Brian Martin, who is a lifelong resident of town, who lives directly across from Clark Cove. And the area in question, he's a retired fisherman, very familiar with the water and the damage. And this opening slide simply shows the state of this cliff face, which is where the entire program is based to run along. If you notice on the left, you see that shadow under there? That's a carpet, if you will, of vegetation that's hanging down because all the underlying material was eroded and washed out in the storms. You can see to the right side where it's actually broken away, and that green down in the lower right corner was originally up on top of the cliff. This picture alone represents about 6 feet of retreat of this cliff face. All right, next. All right, so here, okay, well, we see where it runs along the entire cliff face. All right, so again, we're actually now creating a safety hazard. You see these, again, these are hanging carpets of vegetation that have lost their underpinning. If you get some kids playing along there and that stuff breaks loose, you're going to have a serious problem. It certainly is a serious issue. If you have dogs and children running around, you know they're going to be digging, they're going to be looking at things. There's cute, cool little rocks in the strata there. They'll be digging them out, and suddenly they'll be buried with one of these carpets. Okay. So again, this just shows, it looks like there is no cliff there. And the reason it looks that way is because the cliff has been so eroded that all of this is just hanging vegetation. It's not supported. You can see the shadows underneath it. There is nothing supporting any of this. All right, now here are the stairs. And in this report that you're looking at this evening, there's mention that, well, we're going to take those informal stairs and build them into formal stairs. I'm not sure what the difference is between informal and formal stairs, but the point is those stairs don't exist anymore. They were washed out, and no one has been down there to even see that. All right, the stairs are broken, they're washed out, and if we look at the next slide, I think we can see. All right, yeah, here on the left, where you see that dark space, the stairs are right in the foreground here. Mm-hmm. That is a gully that cuts down through to the beach. All right, so that is a natural waterway. On the right is where the stairs were originally. And that area, again, is a gully. So what you have is essentially the confluence of two eroding gullies, and that's where the stairway was set. Interestingly, it's only about 5 feet back from the current cliff face. So number one, I don't think you can put stairs there. And number two, the next storm will take them out again. When you come down off this area that's proposed, this is the view to the north. All right, so just imagine you're a tourist family, an out-of-towner. You can go north or you can go south. Which beach do you want to hang out on? Go back, show the North Beach again, please. All right. No, you had it. There. Now, is that the beach you want to hang out on? Or is that the beach you want to hang out on? I think almost anyone would say, I want to hang out on the South Beach. Well, the South Beach happens to all be in private property. But you know as well as I do, when people come down, they're going to look one way or the other. This is actually the base of a piece of property that is at one end of this proposed area. And on the left, you can see an overturned white boat and a couple of buoys hanging up there, right? The line at the bottom is the high water mark. The line of the debris at the top is an extreme high tide mark. And on the right, this is the same place taken from the side, because you can see the hanging buoy on the right. That's where the storms were this winter. It's eroding even here. And this, unfortunately, is giving people access. So if you walk down the South Beach, you can walk right up that. That's a smooth, easy go. And what has happened recently, on at least 2 occasions, is that groups of people have walked up onto that private property so bold as to take over the lawn chairs and to sit there and enjoy themselves for the afternoon. So this is the kind of trespassing problem you're going to have. It's interesting, too, thank you. If we look at the National Resources Protection Act as administered by the Maine Department of Environmental Protection, they have some interesting things to say about this. In terms of coastal sand dune systems, which does include this, their definition are sand and gravel deposits, including but not limited to beach berms, frontal dunes, dune ridges, and other sand and gravel areas. They also define significant wildlife habitat as including high and moderate value waterfowl and wading bird habitat, including nesting and feeding areas, and shorebird nesting, feeding, and staging areas. The state has already given their opinion that this indeed is habitat for wading and shorebirds on this end, and that it is habitat for ground nesting birds on the other end. Now, what's interesting is that Section F, and I'm looking at Chapter 355 of the National Resources Protection Act, as interpreted by the state of Maine, says a project may not unreasonably harm significant wildlife habitats within the coastal sand dune system. But Section C is even more interesting. It says that a project may not be permitted if within 100 years the property may reasonably be expected to be eroded as a result of changes in the shoreline. It's difficult to change your mind, especially in a public forum. People find it's embarrassing or it shows a lack of resolve. But as situations evolve, Hope said it herself, things change. Climate changes, realities change. And as situations change like this, being able to recognize that your initial position is no longer the best one and to reverse yourself is a sign of strength and clear thinking. That's what I'm asking you to do, to look at the totality of what's being presented and realize, accept the fact that this project has far more cons than pros. And start with the land. While most fields are just fields, this property, as the state has already concurred, is composed of multiple critical habitats, all right, including federally protected migratory landing and staging areas, eroding sand and gravel cliffs, and wading and shorebird habitat below that. All that alone should be more than enough to cancel this project. It's ecologically sensitive, multiple habitat area. It's not just another field, and I think you know that. I spoke with Diano Circo a couple of months ago. The supposed impetus of offloading this property to the town. He used to be the inland fisheries and wildlife ranger who visited the property, or at least parked next to it every spring, to walk around and scold the neighbors and the abutters about staying away from the property, about not going on the property during the bird breeding season. So when I spoke to him, I expressed surprise that he was now supporting this project. His response was telling and solely focused on the state agenda. He said, Mere Point is overcrowded. Mere Point is overcrowded, okay? And we need more spots for non-residents to launch boats. I reminded him that Clark Cove is not viable for a boat launch, and that we've given the select board about 150 signatures of people opposed to the town developing this property. His response was, and this really hit me, we don't care what Harpswell residents want. This is for the state, not for Harpswell. We need to list more access points along the coast. People who don't live on the coast and out-of-state tourists want to be on the water. I thought your job was to protect Harpswell's interests, not the state's. This project will also have significant impact on an historic neighborhood, creating traffic incidents, trespassing problems, and trash, and there is no way around that. And it seems to me it's kind of irresponsible to initiate a project like this just before we take a look and vote on the new comprehensive plan and its land use recommendations. Now, like most of you, I've seen drafts of the plan. Maintaining the rural character and preserving scenic views are both specifically stressed, as they are in the National Resource Protection Act. A new parking lot with increased traffic and new signs and boundary markers is the opposite of maintaining rural character. Now think of walking or driving above Clark Cove and looking down to the water. A scenic view, absolutely, like thousands of others in this town. A beautiful scenic view. Now imagine that right in front of you is a parking lot filled with a half a dozen vehicles blocking your view. All while our comprehensive plan says we should preserve scenic views, not build parking lots on them. This is a little left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing, it seems to me. And the cost, as Patty just alluded to, you have just asked permission to borrow $1 million. Our tax rate's going up because of that. And I support it because of very clear benefits of having that wharf at Mitchell Field to the community. But all we hear about the cost of this project is, oh, the state will pay for it, at least at first. It won't cost much, just some mowing and maintenance. And how very untrue that is. With every storm, every heavy rain, every extreme high tide, the damage to the lot and the trails and that bridge and that no longer existent set of stairs will continue. The erosion will continue. There is no way to avoid that. You heard the trails wash away. That due to eroding stream banks and increased costs, as per this TV news report, a bridge that cost $400 a couple of years ago is now $10,000 and getting worse. Because of the erosion, they have to keep making it longer and bigger and sinking more piles. The cost of Harpswell will continue to climb, and it will be more than anyone anticipates right now. It's just like building something. Oh, you think it's going to cost this? Then by the time you get to it, it costs that. This project is not good stewardship of our money or of our land, and that's what we look to you to do. The project has the state's interest at heart, not ours. It degrades critical habitat, will increase erosion, and damages the fabric of a long-standing neighborhood. There is no upside here. Harpswell residents can already enjoy this very land whenever they like. There's nothing preventing anyone. Do the right thing and reevaluate your votes. And saying, oh, it's going to town meeting is a cop-out. It's shifting the responsibility. You created this, you can terminate it. As a resident, I look to the select board to weed through all the ideas that come to you, and I realize a lot of ideas come to you. We count on you to recognize the faulty ones, the half-baked ones, and to nip them in the bud, not to dump your responsibility back onto the townspeople who will never have as much information as you do. For so many reasons, this is a bad idea. Please vote to end this project.
At this point, we have to open a public hearing regarding Norm Stevens Junkyard. I don't see Norman or little Norman here.
Norm couldn't make it tonight, so Tim Clark with the Codes Office, we had the public meeting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. No one else showed. He has his trucks all loaded right now with vehicles that are going to the dump. And it is, now that there has been some changes in his life, there's more time for him to clean some things up. So things are going in the right direction, I believe. Sorry, I guess I should have said 81 Pinkham Point Road. It's map 46, lot 31 is where the junkyard is, and it's the only one we have that's legal.
Thank you.
And for the 4 years, I guess, that I've been going there, no one's ever came to object. He's always, and he does have another letter of recommendation again. He usually has 2 or 3 that come in. So I guess.
I have noticed some improvement there, so, yeah.
If there's any objections, I guess then I will try and track him down. I guess we've had a hard time getting, I wish I would have known that today. I would have found out the best way to get a hold of him by phone, but I guess he has not returned some of the phone calls, but whatever.
Yeah.
We'll get a hold of him tomorrow and get things straightened out,
Yeah.
if, with your approval.
Oh, yeah, I know what's going on with it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, you know.
yeah. All right, at this point, we'll close the public hearing. Any additional comments from anybody?
Oh, there's some.
Yeah, my name's Josh Morris. Got a commercial fishing wharf next to the Clark Shore proposed trail. I just wish you guys would think of it as if you have.
Hey, we got to finish our junkyard business.
Oh, all right, sorry. I thought. Oh, go ahead.
I thought you wanted.
Sorry, I thought
you wanted a junkyard.
I might have one of the illegal ones.
All right,
I move we approve the application.
Second.
all in favor?
Now,
Now have at it.
Now you can.
Back to Clark.
Yeah, both Josh Morris have a commercial fishing wharf next to the trail. I wish you guys would look at it as if it was your property next to it. We all know it's gonna be hard to keep people off of our property, neighbor's property. Something that I'm gonna have to deal with, my children, and I don't think we need any more access to trails or the beach or anything like that. It's gonna cause a lot of problems for me and my family, and I hope you guys would take that into consideration.
Yeah, we will. Back to what I said before, there'll be public hearings and, you know, you can make your case to the public as opposed to the select board at the time, but then, but I haven't changed my mind on this,
I haven't changed my mind either.
no.
I stick with the recommendation I made, of course, but I do want to thank both of the Loughran family for the information you've given us, and I particularly, in looking at the erosion of that cliff, you call it, the bank, the sand. One of the things that's been of concern to me, and I think to the Town Lands Committee, is there's been no management of this property, other than the volunteer work that the neighborhood has done in the fields. There are ways to protect cliffs from erosion, and we know the state is going to do nothing there. So I think one of the things that we need to factor in going forward is what responsibility, if any, the town would take for doing whatever is practical and feasible so that that storm damage is mitigated in whatever way possible. The Conservation Commission has worked on that in other properties in town, and I think it could be something we could take into consideration. But for me, it adds another layer of management that was not part of my understanding until after the storm. So I don't know if you want to say anything, Hope, about that, but it does add another thing that's important.
It adds another layer of cost as well. And many,
Oh, if you're going to talk, Jim, you up there.
from what I've read on the National Resources Protection Act, there are very few things you can do on a cliff face like this that are allowed, that are permitted. So you can talk about, we'll do this to mitigate it, but you know what? You're never going to mitigate it. I mean, that's just ridiculous thinking. This is in an eddy area. Talk to a fisherman who's out there. Talk to Josh. There's an area that goes from a ridge that goes from the end of Allen Point all across the Sound. And it directs those waves, am I right? It directs those waves right into this property. That's why if you go down 200 yards or wherever it is, you don't see this kind of erosion. And you're not gonna change it. You know, you can try to get anything you wanted permitted. The government is very against fooling around with sand dunes, other than sticking up a sand fence or something, which is gonna do nothing. That's not our problem. That's all soft ground in there. On those cliff faces, you can reach your fingers in there and scrape that stuff out. It's clay. It's loose gravel. So, you know, to say, well, gee, we can mitigate it. Well, you know what? That's pretty wishful thinking. I doubt that you can. And if you tried, again, there goes the cost. So please just keep those things in mind. Consider that. You know, what was a good idea 5 years ago, or even a year ago, may not be a good idea anymore.
We can mitigate it by keeping people from walking on it.
All right, do we need a vote on this to move it forward?
I think you had a
Yes.
motion and a second, I
Move
thought.
that we accept the draft plan and proceed with the process with the state.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Opposed?
One opposed. All right. Consider gift of watercolor painting.
It's pretty.
Yep.
So we recently had a family member of Donna Coffin. She's the artist.
She was an
Lived-
art teacher when David and I were in high school.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Lived on Bailey Island, apparently.
She did.
And this
Griffith Road.
watercolor is a sunset at Strawberry Creek.
Nice.
And her daughter would like to donate this to the town of Harpswell. The value is less than $3,000, and under the town's ordinance, you, the select board, can accept a gift of less than $3,000.
I move we accept it.
I second.
All in favor?
Right.
Thank you.
Oh. 2025 budget parameters. Look forward to this.
Yeah, we're kind of in denial that budget season is around the corner, but it is. So we've already laid out a budget committee schedule, and I think the first meeting is for November 4th, Monday, November 4th. But one of the things we like to do before the budget season starts with the Budget Advisory Committee is for the select board to try to communicate to staff and the administration what some of your priorities are. We've tried to just outline some of the increases or issues that will have impact on the budget. And some of them are operational, some of them are potentially capital, and then we have another category of special projects. I'll just kind of go through the list quickly, and I don't know if you want to comment as we're going through, maybe on operations, and then we can talk about capital and special projects separately. But in the operational area, we have heard through the Fire and Rescue Planning Committee that it would be helpful if the town added more supplemental firefighting services. We currently provide 2 on-duty folks from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. They're available to respond to any primarily fire calls, but they can also do other emergency services call.
Well, that's certainly the direction we're headed.
Yeah, and so there was a request that we add the Saturday and Sunday piece from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So that will have some budgetary impacts. In addition, the town has been working over a number of years to try to increase our salary and wage levels, trying to stay competitive with the market, and we think that's something we should continue to focus on. It helps us retain and attract employees when we need to do so. In the area of staffing, we're getting some preliminary reports from the harbor master that he may need some additional help in, some type of monitoring role, some of the town lands, properties, maybe some assistance on the water. There's also this idea that the harbor master might have some space and some waterfront location. So all of these things are starting to percolate, and I don't know where we'll end up, but they're kind of in the mix at the moment. So I think that's an area, we should be thinking about that will perhaps need some more funding. We continue to look at the planning office. We've hired a new full-time planner. We're gonna need a little time before we understand what additional staffing support that office needs. Right now, it gets staffing support from the code enforcement office. That seems to be working quite well. The code office is incredibly busy, so we're just going to continue to take a look at that and see if, not necessarily in 2025, but I think down the road, there could be a need for more help, but not currently. I do think there's a sense that we might continue some of the services of Mark Ironman a little bit further into 2025. We know that he's going to be involved with the Housing Committee. We have some ARPA funding for that role. I think he's also going to be helping with the comp plan task force.
Yeah.
And we need to look at how we're going to fund that. And then maybe just some general kinds of consulting services in the planning area. So that will support some of the planning office's activities. I will say we're really pleased to have Jim Bavarsky on board. He's our communications tech staffer, and he's really done a great job in the short period of time he's been here, but I think we see the need for more time in that area to continue to make improvements in our communications and technology area. I know eventually we'd like to have more hybrid meetings, rolling them out at the select board level. The planning board might be the next step. And we constantly get other committees asking us when they're going to have that same type of capability. So we're not there yet. And then there are consulting services that we work into various budgets. GIS is typically a consulting service that we have in the planning office budget because we don't have a staffer who's particularly, well-trained in GIS. And then I did receive a request from the Energy and Technology Committee that the town consider budgeting for a solar consultant in 2025. So I think you're going to see that in the budget. So that's kind of a heads up on some of the operational items that are likely to drive some of the new costs in the operations of the town in 2025. Any questions, comments on those?
I just have one around the consulting. what you've laid out, I see as very much real and reasonable areas to be planning for. I also compliment Jim on the work he's done since he's been with us. It's been a short time, and it's part-time, and it's helped us move along both the website and the communications through the website and other vehicles, and our meeting facility. After looking at this set of ideas the first time, I went back to two things. One, our goals that we set last year for 23-24, which includes communication technology as one of the areas, and the report that we received from that task force. Their first recommendation was that we do a plan, determine a vision and a plan for our communications and technology for the town. And I think we've made progress on those components that we thought were our priorities, which I think were our priorities, the hybrid meetings and the website. And I would suggest that we consider in 2025 going forward, at some point in 2025, with a planning process for communications overall. I think it's important. We have such a diverse town in terms of communications, from people like myself who are older and people who are younger who do everything in their life on their telephone, and getting a very good sense of what the town would find helpful and useful, and how to do it from all as many respects as we can would be good. So I would agree with the task force that a staff person, and potentially that would be Jim, would be a lead in all of that, but having some outside resource to help us along the way, I think, would be necessary.
So you'd like to add that under consulting?
Yeah, a communications, consider a planning process with resources for consultancy or outside help, I'll put it that way.
Anything else in operations? No? Okay. So, capital planning and projects, obviously, we're waiting to see the outcome of the November vote with regard to Mitchell Field. The recycling center building rehabilitation project, I think we're pretty close to putting that out to bid. That would come back to the board, or have they, yeah, okay. Before that goes out to bid, you'll get the final say on the bid specifications. But I think we'd like to get that out to bid in 2024 with a plan for construction in 2025. We're hoping we have most of the funding needed, but we do know that there were options that the town could consider for the project, and we did not have funding for any of those options, which included like a generator and a solar array on the roof, that type of thing. So I think that's an area we might consider putting some capital funding in the budget for. There is ongoing discussion with the Fire and Rescue Committee on the Central Emergency Services Building. We have some renderings that they've been reviewing. We signed a contract, the town, the board approved it with Port City Architects, and they have developed this conceptual design and plan with an estimated cost of around $5 million. I think the Fire and Rescue Planning Committee is getting closer to making a recommendation to the board about how to proceed, but we're not quite there yet. So I expect that to come to the board. I think there was a sense from the board that you'd like to take something to the voters in March 2025. So I think we're on schedule for that to happen. The Capitol Road project for Peabody Road, you had a workshop recently. You're considering a different type of pavement or treatment option, and we're waiting to get a proposal from all states on that cost. So I believe we're now looking at a 2025 situation, since it's getting too late this fall on that project. Then any questions on capital, those major capital projects?
No.
Well, the Wars Island folks have provided a alternative to the Central Emergency Services Building. Is that
That's
is
being discussed.
a little
with the Fire and
contentious, I'm sure,
Rescue.
Yeah.
Everyone's being respectful.
Good,
and
good, yeah,
listening.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's before the committee. Good, all right.
But we dealt with that yesterday.
Right.
Yeah, they have another meeting coming up at the end of October to continue that discussion. Under special projects, so we still have these, I would say, our biggest projects that are a result of the January storm damage. So we have Little Island Road. We've done some repairs there, but our engineer came in and felt that the repairs, while they were emergency repairs, were not the best long-term repairs. So we're still evaluating that situation. And again, FEMA's involved. We're expecting to be reimbursed for the repair work, even the engineering costs, but it's all a little fluid at this point.
I've always wondered how Little Island Road became a town road.
I know, what?
It was an island.
Yeah, I think, is it because there was a motel down there? I'm
No,
not sure.
Motel came afterwards.
That came after? Huh.
The Estes, with the Shea House on the end was the only house there for ever and ever. I'm just curious how it happened. It's kind of like the lower road on Lowell Cove Road.
I will say it stops right after the causeway. It does not continue to those.
So that's not very handy for the town of Harpswell. I was just curious. I
Yeah, I don't know.
asked somebody about it recently, and I go, I don't know.
Did you get any information? So that one is still kind of in the works. The town dock at Potts Point, we're talking to FEMA about, the fact that we got insurance money. We still haven't agreed to the final amount, but we've received almost $100,000 to date.
Dickering, huh?
One of the things we're talking to FEMA about is their mitigation grant program, where we could make the dock more resilient. So we may come to the board in the next meeting or two with a proposal to hire somebody with, like a qualified professional, to look at the cost for the town to make it more resilient. And we believe that that would be reimbursed by FEMA, and we're gonna consider using the town's resiliency reserve for this. So we're getting some estimates on what that would cost, and we would potentially reimburse that reserve should FEMA approve that. And I've reached out to the chair of the Resiliency and Sustainability Committee to just broach that topic, and that's gonna be taken up at the committee level. I don't really want to say off the top of my head what I think that cost is right now, because we need to get that from a professional. And again, this is all part of putting a package together that would come to the March 2025 town meeting. And then the third project is the end of Ocean Street, and it kind of leads into the Giant Stairs path. The Giant Stairs path was taken care of. The new material was put on top. We've got an erosion problem at the end of Ocean Street, so we are talking to FEMA about that situation. It's complicated, how to fix that. And one of the things that we would like to consider doing is having a site visit with the board, so you can see what we're looking at there. And it could have some costs associated with it, and some challenges.
Yeah.
So we have received a preliminary engineering proposal in the neighborhood of $40,000 just for the engineering and the permitting. And we, the staff, are not comfortable putting it in front of the board until you really go there, see what this looks like, and then, you can have, we can set up so you have a conversation with our engineers about how we may go forward to address this. But you really have to see it, I think, to really grasp where we might be going on this one.
The engineer be there?
Well, yeah, I think we would try to have the engineer there. So I don't have a date certain yet, but
Okay.
that's something Mike Drake, who's our emergency management agent and is dealing directly with FEMA, and I feel is important that you get this visual.
Right.
Okay. Then we have the revaluation. You've signed a contract. We indicated that that contract does not cover callbacks. If the revaluation company goes and people aren't home, they're not necessarily going to go back there again, but the town staff would go back. We're going to see how that works for now, but I don't know if we'll have time to evaluate, how well that's working before the budget is complete, but we're keeping an eye on it. And then there was a section for business personal property that this company was not going to do. So I believe we have an estimate for that, or we're getting an estimate from a company that would come in and do that. Administration building at Mitchell Field, I think, is kind of up in the air because we heard that there might be a group putting together a proposal, but I have not been contacted directly by anyone with regard to that issue. Our town staff, primarily Tim Clark, is working with the Energy and Technology Committee on the building envelope efficiency priorities, and I believe the board has already approved the use of resiliency and sustainability funds for that project, but I might have to double check myself. Some of the things we're looking at are storm windows, but again, we don't have a specific
Insulating the
thing to put in
foundation,
front of you
yeah,
at this
yeah.
point. And then an issue that's come up more recently, having to do with the situation at the landings in Brunswick with the PFAS issue. It really just raises, I think, in my mind, the responsibility of the town to really request from the Navy more testing of PFAS at Mitchell Field. At the time that the property was turned over, they weren't testing for that, and that's the same thing you hear about in Brunswick. Now, they have some more complicated issues, of
You
course.
think we need a budget item for that?
Well, I think it's possible, I think we need to request this, and I'll be working with Harpswell's Restoration Advisory Board representative, Paul Silselsky. So we should be getting a letter in front of you, a draft letter soon requesting this, but in the meantime, I don't know how soon we're going to hear back, how quickly
Yeah.
anyone would indicate they're willing to act. So we may need to think about what is the minimum that we should be doing
Yeah.
in that area. And then this project, reconstructing the back walkway to the meeting room, that was on our list last year, and it never quite made it into the budget. It's being torn up now, as you can see. So, it's a good thing we didn't try to reconstruct it prior to the HVAC project. But anyway, that's something we need to address at some point. A very ugly metal railing out there, but I don't know how you feel about that. I don't know if that'll be part of the final solution. or
Well,
not.
it's kind of a safety hazard at this point.
Yeah.
It keeps you from falling down. I mean,
Yeah, but I think we might do something that's a little more attractive.
Ellen Road took a dive out there one night after a planning board
Yeah,
meeting.
Yeah. So no, it does serve a purpose. So those special projects are, they're going to keep us
Yeah.
busy, for sure. And then we just basically need guidance from the board about what you would like us to work into the preliminary budget for an across-the-board increase that we would apply to all salary and wage, for town employees. And we typically have presented what Social Security has set, and they recently set 2.5.
Right.
So if you're if there's consensus, I don't know that you have to vote on it, but if you give us the sense that
Yeah.
that's what we should work in the budget, we can do that, and that would be in the budget that we present to the Budget Advisory Committee
Nod.
okay, yeah.
Okay.
And then the other piece of information you might find interesting, I don't know if you know that the LD1
I didn't know that.
cap has been repealed by the legislature. So it has served essentially as a cap on how much you can raise from your local taxpayers without further voter approval. And since it's been in place, Harpswell's always stayed under that cap. So I don't know if you want to think of another way to provide some type of target to the Budget Committee and to staff, and whether you want to link it to, an acceptable increase to a projected tax rate.
So the legislature got rid of this, but they didn't propose anything to replace it.
Well, I think they left it up to local government.
Right.
Like,
Figure that out.
Yeah.
they didn't impose that you had to have it the way it's been previously.
Anything you want.
You get to decide how you want to approach it.
I heard
And
about
I
it the
don't-
hard way.
Oh, did you?
In Harbor and Waterfront meeting, I think it was, they were talking about all of a sudden, they want to add a bunch of money for land acquisition, you know, and I said, well, you know, do whatever you want, but, you know, the budget, because say LD1, they said, no, they eliminated that. What the hell did that happen? I had mud on my face, and now all of a sudden, they're all excited, oh, no cap. Actually, Terry and I,
Go for it.
Chris, we've been talking a little bit about this.
Good.
You know, just coming up, like last year was 4.28%. And maybe start with that, and then as things progress, do what we have to, but at least LD1, we had something we had to work with, we got to work with.
The thing
People are
about
spending that.
LD1 is we could always make decisions about how much revenue we would want to use to offset.
Well,
And
yeah.
so-
Going higher than
Yeah.
what you ultimately could get.
Yeah,
Well, no, but you could decide how much fund balance you wanted to use.
Right.
And, you know, that type of thing. So you had a way of adding to the budget.
Yeah.
Well, I think before LD1, we were pretty responsible with the budget.
Yeah.
I felt,
Yeah.
I felt a little insulted, frankly, that we, that we had to comply
Yeah.
with LD1.
Well, it applied to every
Oh,
community.
I know, I know.
but it's a new world right now, you know.
It was, it is.
Yeah.
But LD1's 20 years old next year.
So I don't know that we need any specific decision tonight, but,
See where you end up with.
well, and we're going to meet again next Thursday in case you do come up with something. And then I think just, this issue, and I think the chair got at it, is, we have a lot of people requesting, a lot of wishes, needs, desires, and then we have to, at some point, get
Practice
some
saying no.
direction about, what will be the town's priorities for 2025.
When I was on the school board, all the staff would bring their wish list, their Christmas list, we called it. And right, over the few months, we had to pare that down. So, yeah, I get it, yeah.
We always, I think, end up with a budget that reflects the priorities of the town, but
Yep.
some years are more challenging than others. And this is probably going to be a challenge.
Well, I, for one, will be thinking about this.
Okay.
Right, and maybe, I don't know, Terry, I imagine you've given some thought to it already, but I can see that we want to look at various factors. You talked about how much of fund balance would we believe, and you always give us a recommendation on that. What total percent budget, 4.8, 5, 6, whatever that might, what's been the historical pattern of the actual increase?
Because that-
Yeah. And
You did tax rate.
And sort of a little bit of history would help in terms of what the trends have been.
Yeah.
And any other factors that you think we should take into consideration would be helpful. Because I think we have to put different pieces and parts together to get a something sensible.
Yep. All
Be
right,
much appreciated.
Okay.
Okay.
we good with
You
this?
want to add anything else to on the budget?
All right, we're good with this, right? Looking around, treasurer's report? Sorry, Terry.
Good evening, Terry Gaudette, the town's treasurer, here to report on the town's finances as of September 30th, 2024. The select board was provided with the month-end reports, and I'll provide a summary of those. On balance sheet items, our cash balance at the end of September was just shy of $8.4 million, with the tax payments coming in August and obviously in September. The outstanding balance of the town's short-term borrowing at the end of September was $750,000. That was paid off yesterday, including the interest, and we're well under the budget. So that was good news considering the rate was very high, but we were able to manage it in a way that it worked out. And this board set the tax rate at $6.36 per $1,000 of value, the 2024 tax rate, back on August 1, and resulting in all the tax payments coming in September. At the end of September, approximately $10 million of the $15.7 million commitment had been collected. So a lot of our taxpayers like to make both of their payments prior to the due dates, which certainly helps pay off the short-term borrowing. As far as other outstanding taxes, we have $22,000 outstanding for the 2023 taxes, and for 2022, we have $14,000 outstanding. There's still currently 14 parcels that would be subject to automatic foreclosure early December, but we will be additional reaching out to those
Are these frequent
property
flyers?
owners.
Are these people who,
There's one new one,
okay,
but they are repeats.
okay.
So certainly we'll continue to work with them as we do each year.
I'll stay in touch with you about that.
On the revenue and expense side, non-property tax revenue available to reduce the taxes is $2.6 million. That's just shy of 90% of the forecast, and 9 months into the year would be 75%. So we're at a good place there, resulting in our excise tax, which is our largest source of non-property tax revenue. We're actually at 88%, which contributes to that, obviously. Permits, there's several categories that have exceeded the forecast. Permits is 124% of the forecast. Recycling center and transfer station, revenues and fees, 108%. Moorings and other fees, that is done for the year, so that's at 102 basically, and interest at 136 due to our increase in rate. Many of our other forecasts have exceeded 9 months. As I mentioned, excise at 88% and revenue sharing at 82%. Crown Castle Tower has made its second lease payment. We've reaching out to them as, the third carrier, excuse me, I keep saying third, but the fourth carrier was added last year, and we're having a difference of opinion in difference of opinion between the town and Crown Castle, how you apply that additional rate. So we'll continue to discuss that. We believe we're owed some more funding there.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. Spending through September are within the approved budgets. We are watching legal at this point and curtailing some spending in the general government to cover the legal expenses, hopefully through the end of the year. Reserve expenditures include our contract payments for vehicles used by Cumberland County deputies and Marine Patrol, our media equipment upgrade, recycling center phase 2 engineering that you heard about, hopefully going out to bid soon, the Mitchell Field boat launch design, engineering relating to Peabody Road, and of course the roads due to the storm, Little Island Road particularly. And for our emergency communications equipment project, which did have some issues even after the lightning strike, but my understanding has been repaired. And ARPA expenditures include $20,000 for our heating assistance program, which did open up 2 days ago, and applications are rolling in for this heating season. And also ARPA expenditures towards the planning services relating to the comprehensive plan update. Again, the select board's been provided the reports. Selectman Covey had a couple of questions earlier, and my door is always open if any select board member or the members of the public have any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Set public hearing regarding general assistance ordinance maximums.
This is something you do annually, so we're asking next week at 6:15, if you could set the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second?
All in favor?
All
6:15.
right.
All right. Public comment? None? Other business?
None.
Oh,
No?
nothing? In that
Nothing
case, we're
on the-
adjourned.